we have put a great deal of effort over the years into doing great shows, and I'm sure that lots of people who have been to see our shows 10, 20 and more years ago have told their friends, their children in some cases, about our shows, and have said that this is something maybe they should see once in their lifetime at least.
Speaking for myself, I really enjoy touring. I mean, the long tour, the 87-88 tour, and this tour were both great fun. I mean, I think that's perhaps the best part of the whole thing, is to go on and be able to show off to a whole bunch of people. It's a great way of life.
For me, really, the most exciting thing about the whole music is actually being on stage, and it was very enjoyable.
The grass was greener, the light was brighter, the taste was sweeter.
We figured that some people want to have a record of this tour. We certainly thought we were playing better, and doing Dark Side of the Moon, we thought all these things together made it worthwhile.
I think there is a case to be made for producing a sort of complete record of the show. We don't do these shows very often. This had one or two special elements to it, and also there does seem to be a demand for this record.
Having done a live album on the last tour, we would not have done a live album on this tour if we weren't doing Dark Side of the Moon. So I think it really, the reason for putting out a live album revolves largely around us doing Dark Side of the Moon.
We didn't decide to really do Dark Side of the Moon until we were actually going through the tour, and we rehearsed it, I can't remember how many times, but not a lot. And then I think Dave said, okay, we'll try and do it tonight.
It worked very well that we did it towards the end of the American tour, so that it re-injected the tour with a sort of piece of real excitement. I mean, you tend to get more stress and tension and excitement at the beginning of the tour when you're less familiar with the pieces than later on when you start sort of really, to some extent, sort of sitting on them fairly comfortably. And I think that the whole thing of hearing the piece again after such a long time, I mean, we hadn't played it as a piece for, I suppose, since '75, so almost 20 years.
The first time we played it, it was just great. I mean, it was a really brilliant feeling standing up there and doing it again, the whole thing. You know, in a way that's playing the individual songs from it during the regular show isn't. It's not quite the same thing. It was really quite magical the first few times we did it.
Taking away the moments that make up a dull day. You fritter and waste the hours in an offhand way.
We played it as we remembered it, and then we listened to the record again and sort of made notes. And James Guthrie, who was engineering, was actually particularly good at being able to spot what the differences were. I mean, I think there's a great case to be made for sort of updating it in certain areas, and I think it probably has been in some small ways. But as I say, I think the piece works best when you take the feel of it from the record and you don't try and sort of do almost like a cover version by another band with a different style to it.
When I first got the call to do this, and I was told that the band wanted to do it to record a live Dark Side of the Moon, a live version of Dark Side of the Moon, I just thought to myself, you know, this is a tough act to follow, because there's so many people who are intimate with every detail of that record and are quite attached to those details, myself included, and it was going to be difficult to follow on from that. But so we had a lot of meetings about how to approach it. They were already touring it, of course. They'd been doing it all across America. And we all got together and sat down and played the album, played the original album, first of all, played some show tapes just so we could hear what was going on at that particular point. and then referred back to the original album, not really to try to copy it exactly, because obviously you want things to move on, but to just remind ourselves of the overall feel of it, because it has a very specific atmosphere and feel.
And if the cloud bursts, thunder in your ear, you shout, no one seems to hear. And if the band you're in starts playing different tunes, I'll see you on the dark side of the moon.
On this album, it's work that I have at home, the same type of monitor speakers that we use at the studio, and a local taxi firm is making a very handsome profit this year because there are several taxis a day whizzing up from the studio to my house, and I listen carefully to what's going on, make notes and call James back, and he then works on it again, and then it comes back up to me again, and when it's right, it's right.
It's a big challenge, very different from doing a studio album. That's what made this so interesting, really. It's we recorded 20 shows for this, 10 shows in Europe, which were all outdoor venues, and 10 shows at Earl's Court, indoors in London. And so there was a lot to choose from that, which was a good sort of starting point. The technology has moved on a lot in terms of with the arrival of digital, but and it has a lot to offer, but it also has a long way to go, in my opinion. So I'm still, when I have the choice, I'm still working in the analog domain, and particularly using old valve equipment and things like that. I just prefer the sound of the old records.
It's obviously expensive and time-consuming to get really good sound. Obviously, you have to record a lot of shows in order that you get the great performances, and then you have to spend a lot of time in the studio making sure that it sounds nice.
At the mixing stage, I use something called Q-Sound, which is a three-dimensional mixing environment, if you like, from a two-speaker source. So, which means that the public, when they buy the CD is encoded with all of that information, so they don't need to buy any additional equipment.
There are some moments where you can sort of sit and look at your stereo system in front of you, and you've got the two speakers out here like this, and that is the normal limit of width of the sound that you can hear, and there are things that are coming from way out here. You can just shut your eyes and go, how on earth do they get out there?
Maybe many of the younger people would go because they've been told it's an amazing experience just visually, even they don't like the music, and then hopefully what happens, they hear the music and say, oh, we like this, and come again. But I think the word is that the Pink Floyd do put on maybe, one of the most spectacular live shows.
It seems sort of fairly obvious that if you write and perform good songs that are going to mean something to some people and are going to push their emotions around a little bit, and you do your absolute best not to cut corners with the show you put on in terms of the people that play with you, the sound, the lighting, that seems odd that more people don't use those same priorities. I think could be many more people that could have lasted just as well as us if they'd put their minds to it.
I think this is something that's been proven over 30